friends, Krista here. Thank you so much for stopping by Books and Jams. I'm really excited because today we're going to talk about the last quarter of 2021 and my anticipated reads for October, November, and December. I have really enjoyed doing this series this year of anticipated releases. I don't normally pay attention to what's coming out, but it's been a lot of fun this year to kind of give it a little bit of focus and see if my anticipated releases were actually living up to what I thought they were going to be. Some cases they have, in some cases they haven't. At the end of the year, I'll kind of go through all of them and see which ones I've read and didn't read. But I can tell you that from the first quarter, I had 11. Each quarter I have chosen 11. It worked out that way for the first two, and then I just kind of stuck with it for the second half of the year. But in the first quarter, I have read now all but 2 of those books, and one of them is kind of book 3 in a series, so I have to still read book 2 before I get to that one. In the second quarter, I've read 5 out of the 11, and I own 2 of the ones that I haven't read yet. So I have 2 more potentially that I can read soon. In the third quarter, I've only read 1. So from my last batch, I've only read 1 so far, but it was Forest of Vanishing Stars and it was really, really good. So I do have 11 more books to talk about. We're going to start with October, and 5 of the books on this list are coming out in October. The first 3 that I'm going to talk about are by authors that I have read from before, and these are their newest releases coming out. And the first one is called The Vanished Days by Susanna Kearsley. This one is coming out on October 5th, and I have already been approved for it on NetGalley. Yay! This one is kind of a prequel to The Wintersea. So it's going to follow some of the same characters. And in this one, a young widow shows up to receive a kind of the payout from her husband's death, and her viability is questioned, and an officer has to figure out if she really is who she says she is. And it's going to follow some of the same historical timeline as what is in The Wintersea. So it's a little bit before the history part of The Wintersea. So I'm excited to read that one. I have read The Wintersea and really enjoyed it. So it'll be fun to revisit some of those characters in The Vanished Days. I have mixed feelings about this second book's author. The book is The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles, and I really loved A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles, but I didn't really care for Rules of Civility. I know some people really loved it. It was not the book for me, but he has a book coming out called The Lincoln Highway. This is also coming out on October 5th, and I was not approved for this on NetGalley, so I'm going to have to try to get on the holds list at the library for it. The Lincoln Highway, I used to live on Route 30, which was part of the Lincoln Highway in Pennsylvania. It goes all the way across the United States. And in this one, we follow an 18-year-old who has spent some time in prison, and when he is released, he goes to get his younger brother because something had happened to both of his parents while he was in prison. And he goes back to Nebraska to pick up his brother and then go look for work somewhere or something, but people who, 2 other men, I believe, who were in prison with him come to where he is in Nebraska and have different ideas for what they should do for their future. They have some schemes in the works, and they want this kid to take part with them. So it sounds like it could be good. I'm really excited to see. A Gentleman in Moscow is his more recent release, and so maybe he'll just keep getting better and better and better in my eyes. I don't know. The bookstore that I went into a couple weeks ago, her coworker had already read this and really loved it. So I have high hopes. I have high hopes that I'm going to love it as well. I'm looking forward to it. The third one by an author that I've already read is Once Upon a Wardrobe by Patty Callahan Henry. I don't remember which name she uses on this one. Patty Callahan is what I wrote down, so we'll go with that. This one comes out in October on the 19th. And in this one, we have a brother and sister who befriend C.S. Lewis because they want to know more about this wardrobe and about Narnia. And so it's kind of almost a collection of stories that C.S. Lewis tells to these 2 kids. From early reviewers that I've already read, they were not necessarily expecting this short story almost format of it. And so it doesn't sound like it's going to have a really nice flow from beginning to end. But if I go into it expecting these short stories, almost little extra fairy tales from C.S. Lewis, I feel like I'll be okay with it. It just sounds intriguing to me, and it's on my list because I'm really excited to try it. We'll see. Then another one that I've already been approved for on NetGalley is Well Matched by Jen DeLuca. This is the third in a trilogy. I don't know how many are actually going to be in this series, but we'll say it's the third one. And it takes place kind of surrounding this Renaissance fair. The first one was Well Met. And then I forget what the second one was called. Well Caught, Well something. And the second one wasn't as much at the fair. We kind of had a bit of the fair at the beginning and the end, but the rest of the story took place throughout the year in between. But I believe we are back at the fair for this one. And the mother, the single mom, whose daughter is very involved in the Renaissance fair that we've kind of met from the first book, we get her story in this one. And we also have Mitch. He's going to be the love interest, and he's kind of this playboy, jokester, big burly guy wearing a kilt that everybody has a crush on. A big jokester, but I'm sure we're going to get a little bit more of his backstory, and it's going to be their romance. And I'm totally down for it. I've loved both of the first two books in this series. I think I liked the first one a bit more than the second one, but I have high hopes for this third one. And that's Well Matched, coming out on October 19th. The last one for October comes out on the 26th, and it's Murder at Malawan Hall. And this is written by Colleen Cambridge. And this is interesting because it's a start of a new murder mystery series set at the home of Agatha Christie. The detective, or the amateur detective, is going to be the housekeeper in Agatha Christie's house. This housekeeper kind of has a fictional crush on Hercule Poirot and has read all of Agatha Christie's books and is very smitten with her main character, and she thinks she has learned from him. Well, one weekend there's a house party at the house, and one of the guests dies. And so this housekeeper kind of puts it upon herself, or she is determined to put together the clues and talk to all the servants and figure out if her detecting skills that she's learned from Poirot will help her out in solving this mystery. So it sounds like it'll be somewhat on the cozy end of mysteries, in that we don't have a professional detective. We have this housekeeper who's going to be the detective. But I love the connection with Agatha Christie's home, and I'm wondering if she will be a character in it. And also that this housekeeper has a crush on Hercule Poirot. I think that's super cute. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well. I have 3 for November and 3 for December. So first of all, in November is a new book by Marissa Meyer, which stood out to me because I'm rereading the Lunar Chronicles right now and loving it. I did not read her other series, Renegades series, I believe. I did not read that series at all. But this one coming out is called Gilded, and it is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. That's all I needed to know. I think she does a great job with retellings in the Lunar Chronicles. So I'm really looking forward to another retelling by Marissa Meyer. This one comes out on November 2nd. I can't wait. The next one is another author that I have read from before and really have loved in the past, but this time she kind of changes gears and is switching to some historical fiction. And this one is called The London House by Catherine Ray. It also comes out on November 2nd. I was caught immediately by the description that included World War II, 1930s Paris glamour society, and spy network. Once I learned those 3 things, I'm like, okay, I'm sold. I love World War II. I love the idea of the glamorous side of Paris in the 1930s. And also it's going to have some dark family secrets. And I believe that it is going to have a dual timeline, which I know not everybody likes, but I do like a dual timeline, especially because it's going to be a grandmother and her granddaughter. And so I think the granddaughter comes across some letters from the grandmother who lived in Paris in the 1930s. So I just think that sounds fantastic. It sounds like a Krista book through and through. I cannot wait to read it. The third November book is called By the Light of Fireflies. This is by Jenny Walsh, and it also comes out on November 2nd. Apparently all the books in November that I like are coming out the same day. And this one is a middle grade. It's based on a true story of Sybil Luddington, who was a young spy during the Revolutionary War. So I'm really excited about that. First of all, it's a different timeline than World War II history, and I love middle grade historical fiction. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and I love the idea of a female spy, a young girl spy during the Revolutionary War. I just feel like that's going to be so good, and I love books that are based on true stories. So it couldn't go wrong. Well, it could, but I'm hopeful that it won't go wrong. Then I have something a little different for the first book in December. Coming out on December 7th is a book of poetry, which I don't think I've ever really talked about on my channel. Amanda Gorman, who was the inaugural poet this year for the presidential inauguration, her poem, The Hill We Climb, was phenomenal. And this book is called Call Us What We Carry, and I believe it's just a repackaging of her book that's previously been published as The Hill We Climb and Other Poems by Amanda Gorman. And I think they just put it in a nicer package, put it in a new book, and called it Call Us What We Carry. There may be some additional poems. I don't know, because I haven't read the full other one. But I am really looking forward to reading more poetry by Amanda Gorman. I do follow her on Instagram, and she's just a remarkable young woman. And I love her poetry. I'm not a huge poetry person in general, but I am very interested in reading this collection of poems by her. So that comes out on December 7th. On December 14th, I have another middle grade called Orphans of the Tide by Struan Murray. And this is a middle grade fantasy. There's this girl who lives on this island that has isolated themselves. There's a community that lives there, a colony, a country, I don't know, on this island. And she has some secrets of her own, but she has been taught her whole life that there's nothing beyond the island. There's nothing else out there. Well, one day a boy washes ashore in the belly of a whale. Hello, Jonah? Anybody? And she, I don't know if she sees it or she finds him or what, but her secrets come to light, and she discovers that there's more to the outside world than what she's ever been told before. It just sounds like an intriguing story to me, and I love books that have orphan in the title. It's an immediate buzzword for me. So I'm really excited to read Orphans of the Tide. Book 11 for me today, the last one, is called The Spanish Daughter by Lorena Hughes. This one comes out on December 28th at the very end of the month. I've been approved for it on NetGalley already. Woohoo! And it is an Own Voices story about a young woman who is a chocolatier. Her father was a chocolatier and taught her everything that she knows. She lives in Spain. I don't know if her father passes away or gets really ill, but she has to travel to Ecuador to lay claim to their family's land where they grow the cocoa. The people who are running the plantation in Ecuador have a lot of problems with this young woman coming and saying that this land is hers, and there's a lot of issues that develop because of it. So we spend our time in this book both in Spain and in Ecuador, which are two places which I haven't read that much from. But I love the idea of chocolate being at the foundation of this story. And I love the historical element of it as well. So I'm really excited about The Spanish Daughter. I think it sounds different from a lot of other things that I've read before, and we'll see. I'm hopeful that it's really good. So those are the 11 books that I'm most excited for. I'm sure I probably could have listed 25 books, but I just have narrowed it down to 11. And I would love to hear from you. Are you someone who pays attention to upcoming releases? Do you have any others coming out soon that I did not mention? I'm sure there are a lot more, but I would love to know if any of these are new to you. Do any sound good? Have you added any to your TBR? Which ones? Let's chat about all the things down in the comments below. You guys know I love talking with you down there. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you supporting my channel by liking and subscribing and watching and all of the things, commenting, all the things. You're fantastic, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'll be talking to you in another video very soon. Bye.